And so, yes, I do stand by my comments.
Question number 11, Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Education. Does she believe that her consultation process around the possible closure of residential special schools provided all those affected with an opportunity to have a meaningful say and to have that say properly considered? If so, why?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, yes, I do, because the opportunity was offered over several months. That response was given in the form of surveys, reports, forum, hui, whono. I took the opportunity to read all of the submissions that were provided. It was the issues of the availability of co-educational provision at Hallswell College and of sufficiency of safety that has resulted in the High Court decision. I do not intend to appeal this decision. To provide certainty for the current pupils and their parents at Salisbury Residential Special School, I can confirm that Salisbury will remain open for 2013.
Supplementary question. Did she ask for or receive any advice to contradict the research put forward by the board of Salisbury School, showing that girls with intellectual impairment are more vulnerable to sexual abuse in co-educational settings than they are in a single-sex school? And if not, why did she not ask for that information?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, I did ask for advice from the Ministry of Education and received it. And moreover, the research that the member is referring to, which is a report by Professor Briggs, was not submitted in full to me, nor was it submitted as part of the consultation process. In fact, the High Court indicated that I could not have taken account of it because it was not submitted.
Supplementary question. Mr Speaker, supplementary question to the Minister. Why did the Ministry of Education not provide her with that research that was available prior to her decision making if she asked for information, all of the relevant research and information on this issue?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, I did ask for that advice and I get the advice that is given to me. And now I have asked for the Ministry to provide further advice on this important issue because, of course, safety is paramount in my considerations.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, why should the public have confidence that she executed her decision-making responsibilities appropriately, given that Justice Dobson concluded that it was, quote, common sense, end quote, that the risk of sexual abuse for girls with impaired intellect was likely to increase, and, quote, no great leap in logic is required to recognise the validity of concerns, end quote, and that her arguments amounted to a, quote, an abrogation of the responsibilities involved in making a decision, end quote.
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, in the first instance, it is an existing requirement that no residential home may take on placement in their residential home any child or young person who has a previous sexual history. Secondly, I was assured by Hallswell that they were making professional and clinical provision, and indeed I think that in an emotional issue as this is, it is very unfortunate that Hallswell boys, their parents and the professional staff there are being impugned because it suits the defence.
Order.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, the rules about bringing High Court judges into disrepute, saying that they are impugning people and criticising this court, sir, are quite strict.
Order.
She is meant to give notice before she does that.
Order. I didn't interpret what the Minister said as doing that. She's not directly criticised a judge at all. And the member's correct that she mustn't do that. But I've listened carefully. I don't believe the Minister did that. A general reference to the approach being taken here as impugning the reputation of people managing that institution, I don't think can be interpreted as being a direct criticism of the judge. Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Point of order, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, the Minister's comments can only be taken to be criticising the judge or criticising me. And if that reference was directed at me, I take offence to it.
Order. I think members are implied in the members' questioning has been quite severe criticism of the Minister. And for the Minister to order and for the Minister to imply some criticism in her answer back, I don't think is totally unreasonable. And for the member to believe that that's offensive to him, I mean, at the end of the day, I've got to, if the member has seriously taken offence, I obviously must ask the Minister to withdraw her comment. But we've got to be careful not to be... I mean, I've sat here today listening to interjections where I've heard members of this House accused of being liars, and it just troubles me that members think that they can, abuse each other across the House and then get all worked up over something that is far more mild. And I just think we've got to be more consistent and more reasonable in the way we respond to situations. Now, if the member, having reflected on it, has taken serious offence to it, then I've got to respect his view. But I just ask members to be more reasonable. As I say, I've heard today members accused across the House of being liars, and I've done nothing about it because I don't want to draw attention to these kinds of things. I just wish members would be a little more respectful. But so I come back to the member. If he's taken serious offence, I'll... Supplementary question, the Honourable... supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Why did she ignore the advice of Peter Campbell, a trustee of Salisbury School and chief executive of a residential facility for young people and adults with intellectual disabilities, who advised her in a meeting on the 16th of October this year that when that facility operated as a mixed-sex residential facility for a brief period, the incidence of abuse increased markedly?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, in that very same meeting, Salisbury School Board put forward a proposal for their own provision of co-educational schooling at Salisbury. Moreover, we have 29 day special schools in New Zealand. They are all co-educational. We have residential homes for those with disabilities that are run by a number of non-government organisations, and they are co-educational.
Supplementary question. Why should the public have any confidence in her ability to reconsider the matter, given that she was presented with clear evidence that the risk of abuse, including sexual abuse, was likely to increase if she went ahead with the plan to merge single-sex residential schools into a co-educational facility, received no evidence to contradict that claim despite asking for it, and yet went ahead with the decision anyway?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, because I hold the providers of residential schools in very high regard. Hallswell is staffed by professionals and clinicals and had made it clear what the provision would be. Separate accommodations, secure systems of security, student advocates, full awareness of parents and their involvement and influence, the availability of IEPs. All of these were traversed and taken into consideration, and so I think that I do show a commitment not only to excellent provision, but how we might expand it to include even more young people into the system.
Supplementary question. Mr Speaker, how does she reconcile that statement that she has just made with the statement of Justice Dobson that it was exactly that line of argument from the Minister that he described as, quote, an abrogation of the responsibilities involved in making a decision, end quote, and that she shouldn't place all of the responsibility for those matters onto the School Board of Trustees?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, my regard for residential schools was supplemented by the advice I received from the Ministry of Education, who across the country are responsible for the delivery of special needs to children all around the country, including taking into account all of the submissions made by the parents, students, whānau, ainga, teachers, principals and clinicians.
Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary question. Does she stand by the statement in her affidavit to the High Court that, quote, if for whatever reason it is no longer possible to close the school effective from 27 January 2013, I am open to considering a different effective date of closure, end quote. If so, what confidence can that community have that she will reconsider her decision with an open mind?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
I do stand by that statement, and in fact, as I answered in my primary response, the Board has already been advised that the school will remain open for 2013, that I will meet with the Board at the earliest possible opportunity in the new year, and that we will together work through what the best outcome will be.
Question number 12, Melissa Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Social Development and reads, what progress has the government made in 2012